The story begins at Myeong High School, an elite and prestigious institution in Korea. Among the students is Han Soo-kong, a wealthy boy who enjoys bullying others. At that moment, along with his group of friends, he targets classmates they consider weaker. What makes things worse is the school staff's indifference to Soo-kong's actions. Fearful of his influential family, they turn a blind eye to his bad behavior. One of Soo-kong's frequent victims is Go Jin-hyung, a quiet and reserved student. Soo-kong and his gang often humiliate Jin-hyung, and a fellow student named Min-ji records these incidents on her phone. As a result, Jin-hyung's life at school becomes a daily struggle against this relentless harassment. Meanwhile, So Si-min, a new intern teacher at Myeong High, is determined to make a good impression. She hopes to secure a permanent teaching position by working hard and avoiding trouble. One day, while in the restroom, she overhears a conversation between two teachers, Lee Jae-kyung and Hae-sun. They mention the previous teacher who occupied her desk. Curious, Si-min looks up information online and discovers a horrifying truth that the former teacher had do the unthinkable after being bullied by students at the school. Not only that, the other teachers treat this tragedy as just another routine occurrence at Myeong High. Shortly after leaving the restroom, Si-min encounters Jae-kyung, who asks her to follow her to a private room. At that moment, Jae-kyung reveals a hidden, darker side of the school, showing Si-min a disturbing video of Soo-kong and his friends harassing an elderly kimbap seller. Jin-hyung, who is the seller's grandson and a new student at the school, intervenes to protect his grandmother. However, this act of bravery puts Jin-hyung in Soo-kong's crosshairs, making him a prime target for further bullying. Although deeply disturbed by what she sees, Si-min reluctantly agrees to Jae-kyung's advice to stay out of these matters. That evening, Si-min heads to a local boxing gym where she trains. It turns out that Si-min is not just a teacher. She is also a skilled boxing instructor. During this time, her close friend, Lee Kwon-jong, a police officer, joins her for sparring practice. It was revealed that Si-min is a former athlete with a remarkable background in judo, taekwondo, and boxing. Once a promising talent with dreams of winning a gold medal, she had to give up her aspirations when her father, So Young-taek, fell into heavy debt. To save the gym her father built, Si-min sacrificed her savings and dedicated 10 years of her life to keep it running. After finishing her training session with Kwon-jong, Si-min notices several animal masks scattered around the gym. Perplexed, she wonders who placed them there. Kwon-jong suggests they might belong to her father, who used to collect masks from children he used to play with. The following morning, Si-min, now teaching at Myeong High School, tried her best to get along with everyone. She even ignored some students smoking in the hallway, choosing not to confront them. Her goal was to impress the staff and secure a recommendation for a permanent teaching position. Meanwhile, Soo-kong and his gang plotted to disable a school security camera so they could harass Jin-hyung without being recorded. Si-min noticed their suspicious behavior and thought about intervening, but Jae-kyung's warning from the previous day echoed in her mind. Reluctantly, she decided to stay out of it. However, as Soo-kong's bullying grew more aggressive, Si-min couldn't contain her anger. She approached Soo-kong and firmly warned him to stop. At the same time, another student, Lee Byung-jin, who had been secretly observing the situation, stepped forward. He told Si-min it was unwise to get involved with Soo-kong. At that moment, Byung-jin revealed that Soo-kong's father was a chief prosecutor, his mother a prominent lawyer, and his uncle worked in the police bureau. With such powerful connections, Soo-kong never faced consequences for his actions. This revelation made Si-min hesitate, but she decided to think of another way to protect Jin-hyung. Later, Si-min devised a plan. Pretending to be on a phone call, she walked toward the hallway where Soo-kong was about to attack Jin-hyung. She then interrupted them, calmly telling Jin-hyung to return to class. To defuse the situation, she apologized to Soo-kong, pretending she didn't realize what was happening. Hearing this, Soo-kong was annoyed that his plans had been thwarted and began wondering who Si-min was. At that moment, his friend Woo-min explained that Si-min was a new teacher, replacing the one who had tragically died after being bullied by Soo-kong. This mention enraged Soo-kong, who warned Woo-min never to bring it up again. That evening, Byung-jin, who worked part-time delivering chicken, stopped by the restaurant where he worked to practice boxing during his break. Young Taek, Seamin's father, had dropped by to visit his old friend, Soo Sang-wook, the restaurant's owner and a former boxer. During their short sparring session, Young Taek reminisced about a talented young boxer he once trained. Sadly, the promising career of this boxer was destroyed by his father's mistakes. A few days later, Seamin met Jin Hyung at school to discuss the bullying he endured. Jin Hyung confided in her that he had tried reporting Soo Kong to the school authorities, but the teachers were too intimidated to take action. Even the police dismissed his complaints, claiming they needed evidence to proceed. Jin Hyung didn't want to transfer schools. He only wanted Soo Kong to face justice. Desperate for help, he asked Seamin to stand by him. Seamin felt conflicted, knowing she was just an intern teacher with little influence. Meanwhile, Soo Kong's parents, who regularly sent expensive meals to the teachers, ensured the staff remained loyal and turned a blind eye to their son's actions. For Seamin, confronting the school's star donor son was a daunting challenge, but she couldn't ignore Jin Hyung's plea for help. That evening, Seamin sat alone at home, her thoughts consumed by worry for Jin Hyung. Memories from her past surfaced, pulling her back to the women's boxing final she had lost. At that moment, she vividly remembered Young Taek's sharp words, scolding her for not winning a match he believed she should have dominated. In his frustration, he uttered something that stung deeply. He declared she wasn't his real daughter, claiming his true daughter had died in the boxing ring. Since that day, the pain of that memory lingered even now. Back in the present, during the school break, Seamin decided to confront Soo Kong and his gang. She found them on the rooftop and asked them to stop tormenting other students. But Soo Kong grew angry, warning her to mind her own business if she didn't want trouble at school. After their tense exchange, Seamin left the rooftop only to discover that every teacher's phone had just received a shocking notification. It was a news report from the Education Committee exposing a student at Myeong High School for causing harm to both students and teachers through acts of violence. The revelation sent waves of shock through the staff room. Because of this, the school principal, Gyu-ho, was furious, demanding to know who had leaked the story. Not long after, Soo Kong's stepmother, Eun-kyo, stormed into the school, furious over the news. The teachers, intimidated by her presence, stayed silent. At the same time, summoning her courage, Seamin admitted that she was the one who had reported Soo Kong's behavior to the Education Committee. In a fit of rage, Eun-kyo struck Seamin on the head, but Seamin chose not to retaliate. She knew she didn't have the power to stand up to Soo Kong's influential family. Shortly after, in the principal's office, Soo Kong demanded to know what would happen to Seamin. Gyu-ho, eager to please Soo Kong's family, announced that he would fire her. But to everyone's surprise, Soo Kong lashed out, kicking the principal's leg and declaring that he wouldn't allow Seamin to lose her job. Reluctantly, Gyu-ho agreed, more concerned about protecting his own position. Later, as Seamin walked through the streets, frustration welled up inside her. The relentless bullying and the school's unwillingness to act weighed heavily on her mind. Seeking advice, she met with Kwon Jong to discuss whether Soo Kong could be punished. During their conversation, Kwon Jong explained the difficulty of the situation. Without solid evidence, any accusations against Soo Kong could backfire. If Jin Hyung reported the bullying without proof, he could even face charges for making false claims. This only deepened Seamin's sense of helplessness. When Seamin returned to her apartment, she saw her father, Young Taek, waiting outside after dropping off kids from boxing practice. But instead of greeting him, she walked past him without a word. Young Taek tried to talk to her, but Seamin's frustration made her unwilling to engage. Later that evening, while grabbing ramen at a convenience store, Seamin's heart sank when Soo Kong and his gang entered. They cornered her, mocking her and claiming she'd never be able to stand up to them. Their words echoed Jae Kyung's warning, reminding her of the danger she faced if she crossed Soo Kong's family. As an intern teacher, she had no protection against their powerful influence. On her way home, still lost in thought, Seamin accidentally bumped into a drunk man on the street. The man, irritated, began hitting her on the head. Because of this, anger bubbled up inside her, and in a swift reaction, she kicked him, leaving him unconscious. Unexpectedly, the incident reignited her determination. she resolved to find a way to fight back against the injustice Sukong had inflicted on others. Not long after, Sukong and his gang were playing basketball at an outdoor court when another player accidentally bumped into him. This small incident enraged Sukong, and a fight quickly broke out. Nearby, Seamin observed the scene from a distance, still determined to teach Sukong a lesson for his unjust behavior. Wearing a cat mask to conceal her identity, she jumped into the chaos and attacked Sukong, catching him off guard. Unbeknownst to her, Byung-jin, who was delivering fried chicken nearby, witnessed the entire incident. Suddenly, the police arrived, breaking up the fight and forcing Sukong and his friends to flee. The next day, Seamin felt a sense of satisfaction, knowing she had stood up to Sukong the night before. At the same time, news about Sukong being beaten by a mysterious masked figure spread like wildfire throughout the school. Students and teachers alike were thrilled, praising the masked vigilante as a hero. However, in class, Sukong's anger boiled over when he saw his desk covered with drawings of cat masks left by mocking students. Furious, he threw his desk across the room, ignoring the teacher's attempts to calm him down. Unable to contain his rage, Sukong stormed out of the classroom with his friends. Later, Sukong vented his anger by speeding recklessly down the road in his car, scaring his friends. When they mentioned Jin Hyung as a possible target for his revenge, Sukong smirked, clearly liking the idea. Not long after, at her boxing gym, Seamin reflected on her actions and felt pleased with how she had confronted Sukong. Kwon Jong, who knew Seamin was the person behind the cat mask, warned her to stop taking matters in her own hands. He reminded her that there were better ways to seek justice without resorting to violence. Meanwhile, Sukong and his gang devised a cruel punishment for Jin Hyung. They forced him to walk down several flights of stairs shirtless, with a plastic bag over his head. Exhausted and humiliated, Jin Hyung finally reached the ground floor and ran to find safety. Unexpectedly, he ended up at the fried chicken restaurant where Byung-jin worked. As a result, Sang-wook, the restaurant owner, was shocked to see Jin Hyung in such a state and immediately took him in to help. Seeing Jin Hyung's condition, Byung-jin rushed off on his motorcycle to Seamin's gym to get her help. At the gym, Seamin was about to discard her cat mask when Byung-jin arrived, breathless and urgent. He explained what had happened to Jin Hyung, adding that Sang-wook was taking care of him at the restaurant. Byung-jin also admitted that he had called the police during the basketball court incident and knew Seamin was the one behind the mask. Back at the fried chicken restaurant, Jin Hyung, overwhelmed by the relentless bullying, grabbed a knife and headed out, determined to confront Sukong. At the same time, Sukong, pleased with Min-ji's video of Jin Hyung's humiliating descent down the stairs, contacted a friend to edit and post it online. Min-ji, disillusioned by his increasingly cruel behavior, walked away in disgust. Later, Seamin arrived at a billiard hall wearing her cat mask, where she confronted Sukong once again. A fierce fight broke out between the two, but their battle was interrupted when Jin Hyung suddenly appeared, knife in hand. Realizing Jin Hyung's intent to harm Sukong, Seamin stepped in to stop him. In the chaos, she managed to disarm Jin Hyung, but not before getting injured herself in the process. Some time later, Seamin is seen lay in a hospital bed, weak from losing so much blood due to the wound caused by Jin Hyung's knife. Her father, Young Taek, sat by her side, deeply worried about how close he had come to losing her. When his eyes fell on the cat mask beside her, anger consumed him. Determined to make Sukong pay for what had happened to his daughter, Young Taek took the mask and sought out Sukong and his gang. Masked and furious, he confronted Sukong, challenging him to a fight. Some time later, Seamin, feeling strong enough to leave, persuaded Kwon Jong to let her discharge herself from the hospital. Her concern for Jin Hyung's safety pushed her to act despite her injury. As she walked out of her ward, she was shocked to find Young Taek sitting outside, bruised and battered from his fight with Sukong. Seeing her father in such a state only deepened her resentment towards Sukong. At the hospital, Seamin also ran into Jae Kyung, who was there caring for her younger sister. The meeting caught Seamin off guard, and she tried to hide the real reason for her presence, not wanting to expose what had happened. On their way home, Young Taek broke the silence and apologized to Seamin for his past actions. He brought up a memory at the National Olympic Boxing Selection Final that had haunted both of them. At that time, Seamin had been winning the match, dominating her opponent with ease. But in the final moments, she hesitated, holding back her punches. Her hesitation allowed her opponent to strike her down, costing her the victory. With the result, Young Taek was furious, believing she had simply given up. What he didn't know at the time was that before the match, someone had approached Seamin with an offer to pay off his debt, with the condition that she had to deliberately lose the final. In the present, Young Taek admitted he had discovered the truth later, but had been too blinded by his disappointment to see the sacrifice she had made for him. Now, with regret weighing heavily on him, he apologized sincerely. At that moment, Seamin sat quietly, her hands trembling as she tried to suppress the tears that threatened to fall. The next day, Sukong and Woo Min were determined to uncover the identity of the masked cat figure. They suspected the person was a student from their school and began checking the arms of classmates, searching for a cut on the left arm that matched the injury the masked figure had sustained. After inspecting several students without finding a match, Sukong finally noticed Seamin. She had accidentally bumped into another student, momentarily exposing her injured arm. The realization hit him that Seamin was the person he had been hunting. Later, Sukong confronted Seamin in the teacher's room. With a sinister smirk, he grabbed her injured arm, pressing down on it deliberately to cause pain. He demanded to know why she had saved him during Jin Hyung's attack. Seamin, holding her composure despite the pain, explained that she had stepped in to protect Jin Hyung from getting into trouble. Frustrated by her calm response, Sukong's anger flared. He briefly attempted to suffocate her by covering her head with a plastic bag, but stopped himself when he noticed a flyer for a boxing match at the upcoming school festival. At that moment, a cruel idea came to him. He would challenge Seamin to fight him in the ring, humiliating her in front of the entire school. When he made the challenge, Seamin initially hesitated, but Sukong quickly raised the stakes. He threatened to hand over the video of Jin Hyung's attack to the police if she refused to fight. Knowing the consequences this would have for Jin Hyung, Seamin reluctantly agreed, determined to face Sukong on his terms. Several days later, Jin Hyung is seen stood alone on the rooftop, overwhelmed by despair. His body language and vacant gaze hinted that he was on the verge of doing the unthinkable. Just in time, Seamin arrived, sensing something was wrong. At that moment, she spoke to him gently, reminding him of the love and care his grandmother had always shown him. Her words were filled with warmth and hope, urging him to hold on despite the pain. After a moment of silence, Jin Hyung broke down in tears, letting go of his dark thoughts. Seeing this, Seamin immediately embraced him, offering comfort as he cried on her shoulder. A few days later, excitement buzzed through the school about the upcoming boxing match between Sukong and Seamin. On the day of the event, Byung-jin enthusiastically handed out cat masks to the students, encouraging them to cheer for Seamin. As a result, the gymnasium was packed with students and teachers, all eager to watch the showdown. As the match began, Sukong used his self-defense skills to gain the upper hand. He landed blow after blow, and at one point, his attacks caused Seamin's hair to come loose. The crowd gasped, realizing for the first time that the masked fighter was a woman. The shock rippled through the audience, but Sukong showed no mercy. He continued his relentless assault, determined to humiliate her. Just when it seemed that Seamin was about to lose, she found a burst of strength. Removing her cat mask, she revealed her identity to everyone in the crowd. Seeing this, the students erupted in cheers, astonished and inspired by her bravery. With renewed determination, Seamin turned the tables on Sukong. Using her skill and precision, she landed a powerful kick, sending Sukong out of the ring. As a result, he fell to his knees in front of Jin Hyung, utterly defeated. Seizing the moment, Seamin demanded that Sukong apologize to Jin Hyung for all the pain he had caused. However, Sukong, stubborn as ever, refused to admit his wrongdoing. Despite his defiance, the victory was Seamin's, and the students celebrated her triumph. In the final moments of the story, Seamin and Jin Hyung are seen at the police station, formally reporting Sukong's bullying. To their surprise, Minji arrives shortly after, bringing crucial evidence of Sukong's violent acts at school. With this, justice finally seems within reach. Sometime later, Seamin starts a new chapter in her life. She is seen working as a gymnastics instructor, having left Myeong High School behind. Her journey, though difficult, ends on a hopeful note as she continues to inspire others with her courage and resilience. So the moral lesson from the story is, be nice to people, or your worst enemy might show up in a cat mask and knock you out in front of your whole school. Also, don't mess with quiet kids. They know where to find boxing instructors.